Hey everybody, welcome, and I'm glad you're here. Oscars are on. You know, you can write in there who do you think is going to win the best Oscar as we wait for people to load up here. So I'll read them out for you. I've seen 3 of these movies, maybe more. 1, 2, 3, yeah. So the Oscar Best Picture are Black Panther, Black Klansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, Green Book, The Favorite, Roma, A Star is Born, and Vice. I've seen 4 of them. So I've seen A Star is Born, Roma, Bohemian Rhapsody, and Green Book. And for me, it's a no-brainer. I think Bohemian Rhapsody is going to win. So if you think the same thing, you can put your comments in there as well. What's going on this week? Off to Quebec to drive the new Honda Passport. I leave on Wednesday, back on Friday. Hopefully going to get the video out for next weekend. It might be tight. Yeah, I'm going to try and get it out because I'm home for one day and then I leave for Geneva on Sunday for the Geneva Motor Show, and I'm there pretty much for like most of the week. And the Geneva show is really nice because it's a compact actual convention center. It's right near the train station in Geneva. So that is, there you go. Oh, somebody's asking here about the Mazda 3. I think that you're going to be happy because I do have an invite to go to California to drive the new Mazda 3, the Canadian versions, in about a month. So stick around for that. All right, so that's what's going on. The questions are coming in. Yeah, you can give your prediction for Best Picture. I go with Bohemian Rhapsody. I thought Green Book was fantastic. I just saw that last weekend with my wife. Great. Roma, beautifully shot. I didn't really quite get the movie. A Star is Born. I think that Bradley Cooper could win for Best Actor for that, but I think it's going to be the guy who plays Freddie Mercury. Yeah, so I think Bohemian Rhapsody is going to do quite well. I could be wrong. All right. Let's get into the questions. Do you think Canada is getting the BMW 1 Series sedan? I don't know. I don't know. And it would be great. What's going on? Why did it get dark? Oh my! You know what? This is good because I just bought a new LED light panel, and I wanted to see how long it would last. So now I know. Hang on a second. Let's see if I can turn this up a bit. No, that's as high as it goes. Yeah, I bought a new LED light panel and I wanted to see how long it will last. And I guess what it does is it just shuts off. All right, now we know. Okay, and the reason is I'm taking it to Geneva with me and I wanted to see like how long will it go. So it goes about an hour and a half or so. I don't know about the BMW 1 Series. And when I get in touch with somebody at BMW, I can ask them. Looking at getting a 2007 Lexus ISF with 55,000 kilometers as a daily driver here in Toronto. What do you think? Oof. Great car, V8, likes gasoline, rear-wheel drive only. What's the transmission? I think it's an 8-speed, I'm trying to remember. It's not a dual clutch, it's just a regular torque converter transmission. But I called that car when I drove it, when it first came out, the Velvet Hammer. It's a Lexus through and through. Excuse me, meaning it's a luxury car. It's a Lexus product. It has a luxury feel to it. It has that smoothness and the refinement to it. But you get the beauty of the V8 engine. It has a wonderful sound as well. I like the stacked exhaust tips, yeah. As with anything, this is a 12-year-old car. It's got very low mileage on it. You need to get it inspected by an independent third-party mechanic. Excuse me. So if a dealer's selling it, they'll say, oh, yeah, it's gone through our shop. Get it looked at by somebody else, please, because it's not a cheap car if you need to do any repairs on it. But Lexus is at the very top when it comes to reliability. What do you think of the new turbo engine and the new Subaru Legacy? Will it get interest back in the car? Well, it's the same thing that Nissan's doing with the Altima, throwing all-wheel drive in it to try and get people interested in the car. So here's the thing. Guess how many Subaru Legacies they would have sold last year in Canada? I know this because it's the Canadian market. Subaru Legacy sedans, how many do you think they sold? It's about 2,500. That's it. 2,500 cars. So yeah, getting some excitement around it is a good idea. But the way it goes, it's Camry, Accord, and then everybody else. And you know what? Another great car is the Mazda 6. Same thing. They only sell about 2,500 cars. It's really quite interesting. Thoughts on the 19 Lexus ES? Is there an all-wheel drive model in the works? No announcement. The car is only a year, not even a year old. It just came out this past you know, 2018 it was introduced as a 19 model. No, I don't think they're going to go all-wheel drive anytime soon, but maybe if they do a mid-cycle refresh, which typically is you know, 3 or 4 years into the cycle, we might see something. Sorry, it's jumping ahead on me. Impressions on the Devil 16. I don't know what that means. Mazda 3 review as soon as possible. Yeah, I said that's, so yeah, John agrees with me, Bohemian Rhapsody. I think that's going to win tonight. Thoughts on the 2019 Toyota RAV4? It's a great car. I think it's going to be an absolute smash for Toyota, and the main reason is, and the reason I like it, is that it's got a naturally aspirated engine. It's not turbocharged, which can be good and bad, but for reliability, it definitely is has an advantage. It's got an 8-speed conventional automatic transmission. It's updated on the new TNG platform from Toyota, and it definitely handles a little bit better. But it's the interior and the design I think that they did a much better job with. As an overall package, I think that they did, it's a very compelling package. And now when you add in the hybrid model that's going to be coming out in the next few months, it's going to be a vehicle that is going to turn a lot of people towards hybrid technology. And I truly believe for the vast majority of people wanting to make an impact on their wallet and on the environment, a hybrid is the way to go. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If you're not looking for that much size, then the CX-5 Turbo is one hell of a car as well. That's a great utility. Pierre Lambert says hi, welcome back. And John writes back, he says he's watched Bohemian Rhapsody 3 times. I saw it in the theater. I wanted to see it on the big screen with the big sound. It was fantastic. It's on Air Canada now on the airplane, and I'm leaving for Quebec. Maybe I'll watch it again on the way. Do you think you'll ever bring Mike on with you? That's a good idea. I just got to figure out how to do it, because the system I'm using for this to get to you is I have to be able to figure out how to get Skype in here. So yeah, it's one of those things that I put on my list of things to do. Hey Zach, would you be able to rank safety suites for driver assistance from most intrusive to least intrusive, as well as best to worst in effectiveness? Oh boy. I will say that I have had a bit of a run lately with some Honda and Acura products, and I find that the system goes off all the time. You can change the sensitivity of these systems to be more proactive or less proactive. This car, this Volvo, of course, Volvo is known for safety. This particular car, same thing. You know when you're coming along a side street and you're driving along and then you have to pull out, you're letting the other car go by, there's a parked car there and you have to pull out. Just even driving up behind the parked car, the system's going off. So that's really quite sensitive. I'm sure it can be figured out. I got to tell you, getting into the system of that Volvo, man, it took me like quite a while to figure out where everything was. But once you know where it is, it's quite simple. But yeah, the interface is not that intuitive. And best to worst, it's really hard to say because they can be tailored. I turn a lot of the lane departure and lane keep assist, I turn off. I don't use blind spot warning when I drive. I like the backup camera. I do like the backup sensors. Here's an interesting story. I went to community center yesterday. I was backing out of a parking spot, and the way the angle of the road was when I backed out and where the camera was, right where that D-pillar is back here, I couldn't see the car. I put it in reverse and I started to back out, and bang, the brakes came on and stopped me from going into the path of the car that was driving along. So that stuff works. That stuff really works. All of the car companies have excellent systems. If you're considering a car, go and try it out and see if it's something that you like. I gotta say, the only brand that I really liked that did have lane keep assist that was less intrusive was Cadillac. I thought they did a pretty good job with theirs. Sorry, I'm not going to go through every different company, but they all have that technology. For the love of barbecue, nice. Hey Zach, what phone do you use and why? No more Apple. No, I've never had an Apple phone. I have Apple computers. This is an Apple computer I'm looking at now. Apple, everything in my house, but my wife and I both use Samsung phones. I saw the new Samsung S10, that's really sweet. I'm gonna actually wait until the fall to see what the new Google phone looks like in September. I'm really resisting buying a new phone, but this phone is the one, I have a Samsung S8 Plus. And I got to tell you, I don't really feel like I need to update it. Like I'm happy with it. So I've always bought a new phone every year, every 18 months. This is the first time I've had a phone, and I haven't wanted to update it. Hey, it tells me Motormouth is live. Cool. I bought this though. This is really cool. This is one thing you should get if you have a conductive charger. It's a little stand, and you put your phone on it, and it charges automatically. Costco in the States, I got 2 for $35. Great deal. Will you get a chance to drive the new GLI? Yeah. Oh, by the way, the GLA, the Mercedes-Benz GLA, I'm going to the launch of that in Europe in beginning of April. GLI, yes, I'll get a chance to drive the new GLI. When, I'm not sure. I'm sure there's going to be some kind of drive event that I'll get invited to. Dwayne Rose says he enjoyed the A6 review. Yeah, Max has been doing some good reviews lately. He's taking his time. He's really going through them well. I think he's hitting his pace. He's doing a great job. And, you know, there were some real haters when Max still first came on. You know, he's British and he has a funny accent compared to our accent. But yeah, he's hitting his stride and he's doing his thing. And Mike's got a review that's coming up in the next little while on the e-Golf, so stay tuned for that. If it seems a little dark in here, my new LED light just switched off, so apologize for that. What do you think of General Motors abandoning plug-in hybrids? Mistake? What are the plans for new EVs? I think it's great technology. The Chevy Volt really makes sense for so many people to have a car that you can drive in electric power most of your commute and then have that range when you need it. I think that that technology will probably resurface in some kind of utility vehicle. That would be my guess. Maybe with a bit bigger battery, therefore you could go like say 80 or 90 kilometers of pure electric range. But the technology is sound. I mean, plug-ins, okay, I think for the vast majority of people, hybrid is going to be a very effective cost savings and energy savings for them. And then the plug-in electric vehicles are the next step for the vast majority of people. Why everybody thinks they have to have, you know, 500 kilometers of electric range or 300 miles. Most people don't need that. And that's where a plug-in extended range battery electric vehicle, with like a hybrid, makes so much sense for so many people because really you're not driving great distances every single day. Somebody's asking about the CLA. I'm going to the CLA launch. I'll tell you more about that when I do that in the beginning of April. Thinking getting an E46 M3 as a weekend driver, investment. Thoughts on transmission type? Get a manual. It's pretty straightforward. The E46, did that have the SMG sequential manual gearbox? I think it did. Excuse me. I didn't love that transmission. My cousin had that car in Scotland, and he drove it with the manual all the time. Like he actually used the little shifter in the middle to shift, and he didn't mind it. The problem is it's a single clutch transmission. So in between you can get this jerkiness. If you can get a manual, that's the way to go. But an E46 as an investment car, so you really need to have a bunch of things in your favor for a car to have investment grade. Scarcity, it's not scarce. You can get an E46. Desirability, yeah, it's desirability. Condition is a big one. What condition is the car and what kind of mileage does it have on it? But if you're driving it, you know, every weekend, you're going to start putting miles on it. Yeah, maybe if you kept it long enough, it could definitely be an investment car, but I think there's too many of them on the road right now. Flat 6 rules. Nice. Porsche guy, I'm guessing. Hey, Zach, in the States, Ram announced ceasing e-torque with Rebel Hemi availability. Speculation is e-torque is not delivering an increase in fuel economy in real world. Is this rumor mongering? E-torque is not, so it's very misleading what they did when they announced that this mild hybrid system was coming in. All it's really doing is allowing the auto start stop to be utilized more often. And when the auto start comes on, you get a tiny little bit of launch torque. The launch torque is literally only for like 1 second. That's it. So it's not giving you electric power while you're driving the vehicle. Once the engine's started and you've pulled away, the e-torque's job is done. It's very, very minimal. So and all it's really doing is making the most of the auto start stop. And I don't think it's really producing that much difference in terms of fuel economy. That's really all it's doing. And this 48 volt system that they're using by all manufacturers is having different, being used for different kinds of things. So when you think you're actually getting an electric motor to provide torque when you're driving, not the case. Literally only for like the first second. And I don't think there's a lot of demand for it. I don't think people are lining up to pay extra to get e-torque in their V8 Hemi. I think all of the 6-cylinders, all the Pentastar 6-cylinders in the Ram will have e-torque as standard. Hey Zach, what is better driver's car, the Honda Accord 2-liter with a 6-speed or the G70 with a 6-speed? Well, one is a front-wheel drive car and one is a rear-wheel drive car. So if you're just going for a driver's car, the rear-wheel drive car will be better. The Honda Accord is a great machine. That engine is fantastic. The transmission works well. But when you've got a rear-wheel drive car, that's always going to be more of a driver's car. So yeah, I think the Genesis takes it on that one. Our gas price is still crazy out west. Here in Ontario, I fueled up for 89 cents a liter. That is cheap. I don't know what the conversion is in gallons, but that's cheap. Yes, fuel prices here are $1.35 a liter on the West Coast. And here's the thing is, if you think carbon taxes are going to change anybody's habits when it comes to using the amount of fuel that they burn, it doesn't. We have had a carbon tax here in British Columbia for at least 10 years, maybe more. The first carbon tax in North America, and all it's done is drive up the cost of fuel and my natural gas for my house and electricity, which is crazy because electricity in British Columbia, like Quebec, is done through hydro plants and then drives up costs. It doesn't make a bit of difference. And if you look at the actual raw numbers of the amount of greenhouse gas emissions going out into the atmosphere, they're not down, they're up like everywhere else. So if you wanted to make an impact and bring in carbon pricing, it would have to be so expensive that people would ditch their cars and buy something new. All it does when you add small amounts of incremental carbon tax, it just makes everything more expensive. People aren't stopping. People aren't they're still putting their heat on. They're still driving their car. And they're still going to buy groceries. So yeah, we have much higher taxes here. Carbon tax, transit levies. It's expensive here. So yeah, that's the reality. Hey Zach, from your fans in PEI, nice. I love PEI. What a beautiful spot. How do we stop car manufacturers from closing factories in Canada and going overseas? Please tell us your opinion. Well, Canada has 5 car manufacturers making cars in Canada. We have the domestic manufacturers. General Motors still makes cars in Canada. In Ingersoll, Ontario, they make the Traverse, I believe is the vehicle. Yeah, they used to make Equinox and Traverse. They did take Equinox production down to Mexico, but General Motors is still a manufacturer. They still make engines, I believe, in St. Catharines. But the Toyota and Honda are big plants. They have big factories producing about 300,000 cars a year at each of those facilities. So yeah, what can we do? We have to be more competitive when it comes to telling the story and getting people, like we have to deliver innovative technology, and we have an educated workforce, which is good. Canadians do well with that sort of stuff. The factories in Canada are some of the highest rated factories in the world, and the Cambridge plant where they make the Lexus RX is the only factory in the world outside of Japan that is allowed to make Lexus. Only one factory, and that's in Canada. So when you can have a skilled workforce producing high quality cars, you have a story to tell. Because in Germany, they're not a low-cost environment. But they are moving facilities to Mexico and the southern United States. I think we just have to put our heads together and produce high-quality cars. It really comes down to the cars that the people want to buy. And unfortunately, the vehicles they were making in Oshawa, nobody was buying them. LaDonna Brady, I have your watches on your wrist. Oh, you have one of these? Nice. That's Explorer 2. DJ, I like this guy's name. DJ Pleasure Seeking Missile, or woman's name, I'm not sure. Zach, any news on the 2020 Golf? How can Volkswagen upgrade it any farther than it already is? Well, they more lightweight materials is definitely one thing that could be happening with the vehicle. So using much more high strength steel that's lighter weight, more efficiency maybe with the transmission, upgrading the interior materials. Definitely infotainment screens are a big thing right now. I think that is a car that is going to be launched and announced probably in Frankfurt in September. Geneva Motor Show is just a couple of weeks away. I think I would have heard if that was happening, but I think it's going to be Frankfurt. I could be wrong, so it could be as early as just a couple of weeks away, but I think for Volkswagen, it's going to be their home show this fall, this September is when they're going to show it. Ryan Moon asks, how do hybrid cars work? I'm not going to go and try and explain it all here now. Basically, you have a gas and an electric motor working together, and depends on the manufacturer and how they do it, but it would take a while to try to explain it all. But I'm sure there's plenty of good videos you can watch online. Josh is back. Hey Josh, hey Zach. My 75-year-old aunt wants to feel 35 and traded in her BMW 320 for a Mini Countryman. It's a great package with great peppy engine and a good choice. I much prefer the X1. I kind of agree with you. The X1 and the Countryman share the same platform. BMW uses a higher output engine, which I'm always for. The Mini is a fun. I don't love the interiors of Minis. I just think that it's just trying so hard to hang on to its retro roots, but it's not as functional. I think the BMW has got a nicer interior. They're both good cars and they both handle well. Here's the thing: is what's BMW known for? Handling and performance, and what's BMW Mini known for? Handling and some performance. If you get some of the higher horsepower ones, that's a great marriage, right? Both companies make good handling cars. Bavin says, hey Zach, I saw a post about Honda CR-V hybrid to be launched in one of the European countries. Do you think it's going to be a big competitor to RAV4? Well, you look at keeping in mind about failure of Honda Clarity. I don't know if Honda Clarity has been a failure. I don't think they ever thought they were going to bring that many in. I think they were just bringing them in to see how it would do. I don't think they were trying to, replace Honda Accord with Clarity. I don't think that was the idea. It was just to get people to see what Honda can do, and it's sort of the pointy end of the stick. Now we're going to see what else comes behind it. That was sort of like the first foray into that. Not the first foray, because Honda has had hybrids and plug-ins in the past, but that car is the latest. What company does Toyota compete head-to-head with on pretty much everything? Honda. So yes, if they're going to have a hybrid and their hybrid technology is really quite good, then yeah, I think it's probably coming and coming soon. Enrique, hello from Brazil. Hello to you. Nice to have you in South America watching. Hello, Zach. Great show. It cut off there. Hey, Zach. What are your thoughts on the new Honda Passport? Great review on the new Acura RDX. If you just tuned in, and it sounds like you have, the new Passport, I'm going to get a chance to drive it this week. Yeah, I'm going to be driving it in Quebec, and that's going to be a lot of fun. I just need to change something on my page here, just a second, so I can get there we go. Now I can see. Okay. So I'll have a review of the Passport by the end of this week. Zach, I took your advice and I purchased a 2019 Subaru Force, and I'm very happy with it. Thanks again for the great info. I can't remember the conversation. I got lots of questions here, but if I recommended it and you're happy with it, I'm glad to hear. It's a really nice product. I looked at Consumer Reports list of their brands the other day. And the reason was I put a little story on the Facebook page. If you want to follow along, if you're on Facebook, type in Motormouth and you find the page and like it. And we put stories out and videos and things like that. And one of the stories I put out was Consumer Reports dropping the Tesla Model 3 as a recommended vehicle. And then I clicked on the link and I looked at their chart, not their pie graph, but the list of all of the vehicles. And the number one vehicle brand that they recommend is Subaru. I didn't know they thought of it that highly. I thought it was always Toyota or Lexus with those guys, but it's Subaru. Is Audi coming out with a Q4 slot between the Q3 and the Q5? Wouldn't doubt it. Hey, Zach, when comparing non-luxury to its luxury counterparts, i.e. Toyota versus Lexus, Nissan versus Infiniti, Honda, and Acura, where do you see the biggest gap and upgrade? That's a good question, actually. Um, Geez, it depends on the vehicle, you know, like you think about the different kinds of cars and then SUVs, and some of them the gap isn't that great. Like, for example, the RAV4, and then you get the Lexus NX, which is based on the same platform, similar size. So if you're just looking at size and that sort of stuff, they're going to be kind of the same, but one's got a turbo engine, one doesn't. One is, you know, they're both available with hybrids. I think the one with the biggest update. I think it's Toyota Lexus. Yeah, that's what I would say. LaDonna Brady says over and over, "Can I have your watches?" No, they're mine. And by the way, I do have my watch channel as well here on YouTube. It's called Watch This. Hey Zach, I haven't seen many reviews of Jaguar products. Do you have any plans for us to see the Jaguar SUV? Are you talking about the F-Pace or the I-Pace? The I-Pace is arrived, and it's funny, sometimes, you know what? There, Jaguar pops up. You know what? Sometimes when I watch this back, when we're talking about a particular brand, and I can't see it because I'm facing this way, often the brand or the car that we're talking about pops up on the screen behind me. It's kind of funny. I-Pace, if you're talking about the electric I-Pace, yes, I have that booked. But I think it's in April because March is busy, traveling, spring break with the kids, and then I think I have it after that. So yeah, I'm getting I-Pace. There are reviews of F-Pace on the channel, so just type in F-Pace and you should find those, if that's what you're talking about. John says, I think every company should offer all-wheel drive. You're probably talking about sedans and cars, and it's kind of going that way. The other thing that's probably going to happen is everything's going to end up having cladding on it and look like an SUV. That could happen, right? We're going to come up with a crossover version of this sedan, kind of like Subaru did with the Outback way back in the day. So yeah, you might be right there. Ben Mizrahi says, your thoughts on the new 2020, not MQB, Volkswagen Passat. It's merely a reskin of the current model launched in 2012 with many of the interior parts carried over. What is Volkswagen of America thinking? Now, if you're a regular viewer of this channel, you know I'm a huge Volkswagen fan. A lot of people claim I'm a fanboy. Whatever, I like their products. I saw it at the Detroit Auto Show and it left me cold. I don't think it looks good. I agree with you. Yeah. I thought the Passat that it replaced, like the one that's for sale now, is actually a better looking car. Yeah, I don't know what they're thinking with that car. It's ever since that Passat came out, they've never really figured out what it is and who it's for. Well, I think they know who it's for, but they've never actually figured out what the right mix is with that car. They've tried different things with it. It's huge inside. If you want a big car, it's a nice big car, but yeah, I agree with you. I think it's, and the other thing that Volkswagen is doing these days is they have, what is it called again? It's a funny name. The cat throw gap or something like that is the gap between the fenders and the wheels. It's where a cat would jump and sit in the wheel well. I don't know why designers came up with that, but I think it's called the cat throw gap or the cat gap. The gap on the rear wheels of the new Jetta and of this new Passat, it sits too high. I like it to be a little lower. Maybe that's why when they come out with their R line, they drop it a little bit and they force you to spend the extra money. Maybe, maybe not. This is from someone saying, what's your opinion of the G70 Genesis? Changed, or do you still hold it in high regard? Yes, I do. I think it's a great product. I think they did a great job with it. I'm still hearing that they're not showing it for sale in the United States yet. In Canada, it's been for sale since May. It's going to come up almost on a year soon, where they haven't been able to figure out what they're doing with that car south of the border. I think for anybody who is in the market, I haven't driven the new 3 Series, so I got to wait for that one. For anybody that's in the market for a product that, if you're a driver, sort of more enthusiast-minded, that G70 is definitely one that you should try, and especially with the 3.3-liter turbo. James saying, what's your thoughts on the pricing of the new 3 Series? BMW has sharpened their pencil with the new 3 Series. It was a big part of the presentation when they did their launch of the vehicle, is that it's all about price. And I think it's because sedan sales are soft. You know, people are buying utilities. And so in order to keep the volume up of that car, they're sharpening their pencil on it. There are going to be winners and losers in everything, right? And as we go through the years, if this trend towards utilities continues, car lines will continue to disappear. We've seen it with the domestic manufacturers. Ford getting out of cars, General Motors dumping a bunch of cars, Chrysler, you know, we still have to wait and see exactly what they're going to do with some of the full-size cars. But they got rid of the Chrysler 200s, basically the Jeep and Ram company now. So there will be losers, and then there's going to be winners. And I think BMW still wants to have a real stranglehold on that compact premium luxury space. And you know, Genesis won so many awards. It won the North American Car of the Year. It won the Auto Jury, the Canadian Auto Jury, Canadian Car of the Year. It's won all kinds of awards. I think Motor Trend. And so, yeah, that is something that they're probably keeping an eye on as well. It's jumped around on me again. Josh says TEO Electric Taxi Company in Montreal went belly up in a month ago and will be liquidating their sole EV Leafs and Teslas. Do you think high kilometer Tesla S at $20,000 to $30,000 is a smart city runabout? Well, there's not really that many wear items on electric car, right? Suspension is definitely brakes, not so much brakes, tires, suspension. You know, what's the interior like? Is it all thrashed? You know, it depends about how high the mileage is on the car, what you consider high. But yeah, I think why not? You can get one super cheap. Give it a shot. John Smith, any word on the 2020 MDX? Nothing yet. I actually have an MDX parked outside. My wife, Andrea, is back. She's not there in the picture, but yeah, we just did the video a couple days ago, and it's going to be edited. It's going to be in a few weeks before it comes out because I have other videos in the queue. But it's the A-Spec. And I got to tell you, of the Acura vehicles that have come out with A-Spec, I think it transforms the MDX the most. I mean, with the RDX, it's a new design, so it's already quite sporty, and you put A-Spec on it, yeah, it looks slightly different, but A-Spec on MDX looks really good, really, really good, especially the big exhaust tips sticking out the back. So I'm gonna have a review on that. But it is in the cycle to be redone, and you know, a lot of people will say it's the infotainment and dash. Having driven it for the past week or so, it works fine, but it isn't at the same level of infotainment screens that we're seeing from other brands, including Acura with RDX. So I haven't heard anything on it yet. I was actually talking to somebody from Acura about that, and they didn't give a tip of the hat to me about when it's going to happen. Hey Zach, are you going to teach your kids how to drive stick? What vehicle are you going to use? It's interesting you bring this up. My younger son, who's 13, he's actually all in with learning how to drive manual. I think my older son, who's 16, hasn't really shown any interest in learning to drive at all. Where my younger son is like, when I turn 16, I want to get my license and get out there driving. So what we're going to do, if we're going to teach them to drive with an automatic, and probably get like an old Honda Civic or a Corolla or something to let them drive it. And then I have an old Toyota Tacoma pickup truck. And the interesting thing is, I used to have an old Volkswagen van that I sold a couple of years ago and replaced it with the Tacoma. It's my kick-around vehicle. It takes, like, I got a bunch of stuff. I got to go to the dump. I'll go to Home Depot. It's my runaround vehicle. I got to pick up a sofa from one of the furniture stores next weekend when it comes in. So I use it for that. So when my son drives with me, he sits in the passenger seat and he does the shifting. And he really likes it. And the great thing about teaching a kid to drive a manual that way is they have to watch. And the great thing about manual transmission is if you're driving a manual, you're not on your phone and you're not looking at Instagram. You're looking out the window, seeing when the light's going to change, putting the clutch in, grabbing first gear, getting ready to go. So yeah, they're going to learn on my Toyota Tacoma pickup, which is pretty indestructible. Hey Zach, ILX or A3? ILX is much less expensive. Okay, let's just call it what it is. It's a much less expensive car. Watch the ILX video that I did. It's a real deal in the space. The A3 is a great car, but the A3 is a warmed over Volkswagen Golf. They're both built on the MQB platform. Both are excellent products. Drive them both and see what you like. The great thing about the ILX is it has the dual clutch transmission. Also throw in there a high spec Volkswagen Golf. That's a great car. You got a Highline Volkswagen Golf, an A3 or an ILX. Now you're kind of competing on price and on features. Will the 2020 Corolla Hybrid be a game changer in the compact car when it comes to out this spring? Do you have any estimates on its price? Well, if you look at what Toyota's done with the RAV4, they are committed to growing the hybrid fleet. They really believe that they're going to increase sales with Corolla by having hybrid. They're getting rid of the small Prius, the Prius C, the little hatchback, which is a shame because of the 3 Prius that are available today, or Prii. That one's my favorite. It's a little city runabout. It's got the same basic output as the Prius V, but it's a much smaller package and much more fun to drive. Very simple, clean look on the outside and the inside. So it's a vehicle I really, really liked. But I think that the opportunity with Corolla is to expand sales. That vehicle has a much greater name recognition, right? Corolla, the best-selling car of all time, period, any brand. So you've got a name brand like that, Corolla, and then you add in hybrid, and they've committed to keeping the price down on RAV4. They're going to do the same thing with Corolla. What I think is going to happen, it hasn't been confirmed, okay, so Corolla Hatch came out, and they're getting rid of the Prius C. So I could see Corolla Sedan hybrid, and I could also see Corolla Hatch hybrid, which would be a compelling package as well. Is it going to be a game changer? Same thing somebody brought up about putting all-wheel drive in, cars, and somebody asked the question about putting a turbocharger in the new Legacy. They are having to put more into sedans to keep sedans selling, right? So that's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to add more content. And you probably think to yourself, well, why do they need to keep these cars selling if people want to buy SUVs? Because exactly what you saw with the Oshawa assembly plant, closing down. Factories will close and people aren't buying a particular model. So it's so much more complicated than you just going to the dealership and buying the car. There's a whole huge industry that gets those products to market. And keeping factories moving and keeping factories working is much cheaper than changing the factory or closing the factory. So that's one of the reasons why I think you're going to see more and more content in sedans. Mac Daddy, what are your thoughts on this? Why is a car company trying to sneak when it comes to emissions? It all ends up trouble. Yeah, you know what? I kind of agree with you. I mean, so many companies have been caught with emissions and cheating on fuel economy standards. Hyundai and Kia from Korea got caught on that. Subaru got caught on that. There's quite a few companies got caught on cheating on the actual fuel economy. Then the emissions. Pretty much all of the German brands have been implicated. It's not good. I don't really know. I think it's one of those things that I think they think it's smarter to bury it in the car and nobody will ever figure it out. With the Volkswagen diesel thing, they sure figured it out. But yeah, I don't know. It's just maybe a corporate culture of arrogance. They just think that they can do what they want because they're big companies. I don't know. Charlottetown Spud, why is it so hard for some car companies to master steering feel? I have a 2014 Kia Forte and I find the steering just not right. Plus I feel like I'm always correcting the car while driving. Yeah. If you ever see or read reviews where they talk about this, what's called a dead on-center feel, that is exactly what you're talking about. And the Korean car companies were the worst offenders of this for many years. You would drive down the road on the highway and the car would sort of drift this way, so you'd correct the wheel that way, and then you'd have to go back, and you were always just doing these micro corrections. You're driving down the highway like this, where a car that has good steering input and good tracking, you can basically take your hands off the wheel and the car will track on the road all on its own. So Kia was really bad. Now their products are as good, if not better, than anybody's out there. It was a major problem with Kia and Hyundai, and they have figured it out. So The new Forte, by the way, is a great product. I think that you should try the new one because it is much, much better. Because, and here's the reason why. Everybody's moving or has moved to electric power steering. And it's all programming, right? And electric power steering, when it first came out, was horrible. We had this numb, dead center feel. They weren't very good. And now car companies have figured out how to do it better, and to the point where you can't really tell for the most part that it's not it's a direct link, but it's electrically assisted. The best systems are still the old hydraulic power steering systems, but I'm trying to think of, I think Mustang still has that, and that's one of those reasons why it has such a great steering feel. Somebody says, Elon Musk says that full autonomous tech will be ready for 2019. Your thoughts? Yeah, he said that last year about this year. I'll believe it when I see it. And you know what? Full autonomy has not been approved anywhere in the world. Anywhere. So he can say that because he can't sell it. No one can turn it on. They have a few test areas, mostly in California, where they're doing testing of autonomous vehicles. But to actually have a full level 4 autonomous vehicle driving on its own is not allowed anywhere. So Elon Musk can say what he wants. Amar K, is the Jeep Wrangler actually worth a 1-star crash rating? If so, would mean it's an unsafe vehicle. Well, I talked about this last week. The new Wrangler is so much better than the last version. The problem is, when they updated it, they didn't update it with new crash technology, meaning forward collision warning, autonomous braking, all of the tech that is coming in more and more vehicles. So when you look at the crash test of it, compared to the old vehicle, it would probably be pretty similar. But because it didn't have all of those advanced features even available, it got knocked down. Now just think about what a Jeep is. A Jeep is designed to be able to go off-road, to take the doors off, to take the roof off. So side curtain airbags and side airbags, those are not in there because it's Jeep with no roof and no doors. And probably the camera systems, there was maybe some worry about that. Apparently they're going to be putting it into the Gladiator. And the thing is that most people drive these as everyday vehicles to go to work and take their kids and do things. So I guarantee you they'll be putting some technology into the Wrangler to offset that. But side curtain airbags and things, they probably have to do quite a big engineering rework in order to get that in there. I think that's why it's getting such bad scores. Ben Mizrati again, which one would you prefer for a U17, a Porsche Macan 2-liter, an Audi Q5, or a Volkswagen Touareg V6? If you're going Macan 2-liter, then I would go SQ5. Probably going to be similar in price. So you can get the V6 turbo in the Audi, and that would be the one that I would choose. If it's the same engine, because the base model Macan 2-liter is the Audi 2-liter, it's the same engine, same output. If it's between those two and you can afford it, I'd get the Porsche solely because of resale value. So you're going to spend more to get the Porsche, but the Porsche will hold its value better. In fact, in that class of vehicle, compact premium SUV, the Porsche Macan has the highest resale. Volkswagen Touareg is a great product. The VR6 engine that's under the hood has been around forever. It's a bulletproof engine, but it loves gasoline. It sucks gas. So based on that, I would say no. If you could find a used Volkswagen diesel, now that's a great product. Par says, hi Zach, slightly used 17 Golf R or 18 GTI. Really want all-wheel drive in the winter. Is it worth the extra cost, long-term maintenance cost on both? Looking at DSG for both options. Well, a DSG GTI is a great car. The Golf R has more power, 17 versus, I don't know. Like if you want the extra power and you want the all-wheel drive, you just answered your question, get the Golf R. I personally like the GTI, and I live in a part of the country that doesn't get a lot of snow. We have snow now we've had snow in the last little while, but for me, I love the GTI because it just feels lighter. The extra horsepower in the Golf R is great, and if you want all-wheel drive, that's the one you should get. Quick check shows no carbon tax on BC Hydro bills. GST is the only tax, and I'm going to check. Wait a second. My bills. Where's all my bills? Where is my hydro bill? Yeah, here it is, right here. That's not quite true. What happens well, we're talking about carbon taxes. They have stepped energy. So they have your first amount of energy is at one rate, and then if you use more than that, it goes up substantially. So they have a stacked system for that. Isn't that nice? I had my bills right there. So yeah, I disagree with you. It's not called a carbon tax, but we have a step rate for electricity in British Columbia. So if you can keep your energy down to a minimal level, you pay a lower amount. As soon as you start going over that, it's like so much more expensive, which they brought in, which is kind of like the carbon tax. One more thing, any news on the Volkswagen Alltrack 2020? Will the manual still be available? I think the manual will still be available because I think that has expanded that vehicle's sales. I think, I think that the Volkswagen's quite happy with the way that the Alltrack has been selling. What they have in the United States is very different than what we have here in Canada. Alltrack is available on their entire line of sport wagons, okay? In Canada, it's the top model. So you have Sport Wagon, and then you have Alltrack. In the United States, they have all the sport wagons, and they also have on all those trims the Alltrack. I'm hoping that that's what we're going to get in Canada, more availability at different trim price points. That would be the way to go. Benjamin Page just asked about Consumer Reports. I just talked about that earlier. Love it when you and your wife both do reviews. Please do more of those. Well, that's very nice. She'd be very happy to hear that. You know, my wife, she's sensitive. And she's sensitive to the comments. And I'll tell you what happened. We did some reviews, I don't know, a while ago, and we took a long break. And I kept on asking her, we got to do more reviews where you're in them. And she was kind of like, and then it finally came out. She says, I don't like the comments. People say mean things. You know, she says, you're a woman, you got to be skinny and look good and know what you're talking about and have nice looking hair, and dudes just show up and talk about cars. And she says it's not fair, and then people make nasty comments. So I said to her, listen, you have to have a thick skin in this game. People say things about me, they say things about Max, they say things about Mike. Everybody says things, so you have to get over it. What I found though is in the comments when Andrea does a video, there's been a change. And I think what's happened, the same way we're seeing that with Max, at first because he's English and he talks differently than, most native North Americans do, people have warmed to him. They've gotten to like him and know him. And same for me and my wife. And so what's interesting is the comments about my wife now, a year or two into her doing these, are actually really quite positive. And you know what she does? She doesn't read them anymore. I told her, do the video, put them out there, don't look at them. Just let the world enjoy them. Don't have to look at the comments. And I secretly go and delete the bad ones. The thing that's interesting is I've only had to get rid of a couple of, just guys being jerks, right? So that's good. I'm glad to hear it. She'll be happy to hear that. Aaron says, do you think Scotty Kilmer is paid by Toyota? If Toyota has the best resale value, why do people choose other brands? Yeah, it's an interesting question why people choose other brands. I do work for Canadian Black Book. I was sitting here at the computer last week just cranking out all of these videos I did about their Best Retained Value Awards. And the thing is that the one brand that wins more categories than anybody else is Toyota. Here's the interesting thing though. Canadian Black Book is a value guide company looking at retained values of cars. These are after 4 years. They did a survey with a company in Canada here called Ligier, and they found that only 2% of people knew that depreciation is the number one cost of owning a vehicle. Most people said it was gasoline or insurance. It's the amount of money that the car is losing month after month is the biggest cost to your pocketbook. So if you buy a car that's got high resale value, and by the way, do you know the number one vehicle in Canada for retained value? Any idea which vehicle above all others holds its value the best after 4 years? Do you know what it is? Jeep Wrangler, like I think it's 85% of its value after 4 years. It was incredible. So yeah, Toyota wins more categories than anybody else. I think people just don't know. You know, you are tuned into cars. I'm tuned into cars. You're watching this channel. You're a car buff. You're the enthusiast in your family, the way I was when I was a kid. I was the enthusiast in my family. I know that. You know that. I don't think most people know about this stuff. Most people don't know much about cars. That's what I've come to find out, is that people that watch these videos assume that everybody's like them, that they know about cars and they know how things work. I'm here to tell you, the majority of people don't know anything about cars. So yeah, I think that's the reason why. Why in Canada the price of a Honda car is high? That's not true. If you look at if you look at just the price and you go, oh, a car is $30,000 in Canada and it's $27,000 in the US, it's $3,000 more. But when you actually factor in the exchange rate, the difference in cost for a US and a Canadian dollar, cars in Canada are actually cheaper. So there you go. I disagree with that. And in fact, Canada has some of the lowest car prices based on our currency of anywhere in the world. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. Hey, Zach, love your channel. Why do you think Audi has a recent downturn in sales? No, they haven't. Audi's sales are, not in the Canadian market. They're having great sales. I disagree with you. Hey, Zach, what's the most reliable truck? I'm not sure if you're talking full size or mid size. I'll tell you who has the best resale, which kind of speaks to reliability. Toyota for Tacoma and for Tundra. They're so far ahead of everybody else when it comes to resale value. So consumers, vote with their wallet. So they're wanting to buy these vehicles because they're reliable and have great resale value. So I think that would be the answer. Hey, Zach, great show. Did you hear if GM is going to push the closing date of Oshawa assembly? I saw that story as well. This is coming out because Hamtramck, which is the factory that's just outside of downtown Detroit, it's interesting. You drive north outside of Detroit and you drive 5 minutes and there's Hamtramck, the famous assembly plant. They have announced that they're extending the closure of that plant, or they've extended that plant. So a lot of people are crossing their fingers hoping that the same thing will happen in Oshawa. I haven't heard anything about that other than just speculation. This is JS. Hi, watching from Terrace Bay, Ontario. Crazy weather. Quick question. Should I wait for a 2020 RAV4 off-road or just get the trail? Well, the thing about the RAV4 trail is there's nothing mechanically different about it. So if you're wanting it for something more than just driving regularly, it's a styling exercise only. That's it. The only vehicle that has a slightly different setup is the hybrid, the XSE, I think is what it's called. It has slightly different suspensions. The shocks are a different color to give it more of a sporty feel. So if you're wanting it for off-road, if you're looking for that, then wait for that vehicle. Have you driven the new Palisade? No, I haven't. It looks great though. I think they did a great job on styling. I saw, what auto show was I at? Detroit, yeah, they had it there. Yeah, great looking vehicle. I wish the Honda Black Edition would come to the States. Is it not there? That's too bad. So Mark Andre is writing back and he thinks that the Honda Passport and the Pilot are ridiculously high. They're not affordable. The thing is, what's affordable to one person isn't to another, and obviously in your situation, they're not affordable. But the thing is, you look at how many they sell. There's certainly a lot of people willing to put the money down and take them. That's why leasing is so popular, because people can get into vehicles that are more expensive than they can typically afford when they lease it. Where can I buy the Air Canada 787 model? Well, you know what you need to do to get one of these? You need to fly 1 million miles with Air Canada. And that's how you get it. I'm not sure if they sell them at Air Canada, but that was my 1 million mile reward. I wonder where you get it, 2 million miles. But yeah, that's my little Dreamliner. And I'm flying on the Dreamliner this week. I love the Dreamliner. My favorite aircraft is still the great lady of the skies, the 747, and I'm going to Geneva next Sunday, a week today. Oh, by the way, so I won't be here next week because I'm flying to Geneva on the 747, and I'm going in the Lufthansa 747 from Vancouver to Frankfurt upstairs. It's not first class upstairs; it's business class, but it is awesome. I drove I flew the 380 recently to Abu Dhabi. Underwhelming. When you're inside, it doesn't, nothing really remarkable. But when you fly in a 747, it's the best. I love it. Vince from Montreal. I noticed Mazda is offering their 3 with all-wheel drive. However, the 6 is front-wheel drive only. Any news if they'll be offering all-wheel drive? Would be interesting with a turbo. I totally agree with you. It comes back to our point earlier. It's all coming together today. Seems to be a theme with sedans. I think that car companies are going to have to put more into them in order to keep the people interested in sedans. So yeah, it could totally happen. It's not a big selling vehicle. It isn't. And so maybe they're just like, we're happy with the production if we can just keep it not going down too much. Yeah, I agree with you. Andrew Lamb, is GTI base a better deal compared to the Golf Exec line? MSRP difference is under $2,000. Thanks in advance. Yes, it's worth it. Now, yes, it is worth it because you get a more powerful engine, you get a dual clutch transmission if you're getting the automatic versus a regular torque converter Tiptronic. So in the Volkswagen world, Tiptronic is just a regular automatic, and the GTI, you get the dual clutch, you get better wheels and tires, you get better suspension, you get the cool check seats on the inside. Yeah, excuse me. If you can spring for that extra couple of grand, I think a GTI is a way to go. The Autobahn trim is where you get more features like the LED lights and the sunroof, but if you don't need that, then the base model is good. What I would do if I were you, I would buy the base model GTI and then keep a lookout for used wheels like on Craigslist or Kijiji for the larger GTI wheels, because I think it's 1 inch bigger on the Autobahn trim, and people do buy separate wheels and then they sell the original ones off. So I'm sure if you waited long enough you could find some wheels. I would take those slightly larger wheels and put them on the base GTI. I think that would be the way to go. Is 3% over dealer cost a good deal for a new car? Yeah. 3% is all the dealer's making. Well, you know, they got to keep the lights on. They got to pay the sales guy. That's good. So if 3% over dealer's cost is good. Now, that's a great segue into, oh, look at this. I'm talking about Car Cost Canada, and it just pops up. Isn't that nice? Go to Car Cost Canada, type in the vehicle that you're looking for, sign up. The first search is absolutely free. So say you're looking for a Mazda 3. That's going to be a perfect example to see how it's doing right now, because there's a new one coming. Are they going to have discounts and incentives and things on the car? There's all kinds of things running in the background between car companies and the dealers that you're not aware of. You might see online or on the newspaper an ad $1,000 off for a car. But what you're not aware of is there's all kinds of hidden incentives and secret things that are available only to the dealer and to the manufacturer. But that is shown on carcostcanada.com. So what you'll do is you'll find the actual cost. So you found out what the dealer paid for the vehicle, and you're saying 3% over cost is great, but there might actually be extra money available that you're not aware of. Maybe there's a hidden reduction of $1,000, or there's first-time buyer credit, or all these different things. And then another way you save the most money is if you're going to finance or lease the vehicle, you get a reduced interest rate, okay? And that will also show up at Car Cost Canada. So yeah, 3% over dealer cost. Hey, they got to make a living, and I think that's pretty narrow margin for them, but sometimes there can be secrets deals that you're not aware of, so check it out. Somebody asked this last week. Have you heard that the Volvo V90 and the V90 Cross Country will be discontinued in North America due to low sales volume? I don't think so. The cars have only been out for 2 years. I don't think so. They just introduced the V60 and the V60 Cross Country, and there was a story recently, I mentioned this last week, that station wagon sales are actually picking up in North America. So I don't think so. I don't think that's the case. Maybe maybe when they get the S60 and the V60 in bigger volume, they might actually push that one more, because the S60 is made in the United States, friends. It doesn't have any duty to bring into North America. So yeah, that might be the way they're going to push it. They might be pushing that mid-size car, because the V90 and the Cross Country are big. They're big cars. So there might be some truth to that, but I haven't heard anything. Excuse me, I have to keep coughing today. We're all out of time, friends. It's been an hour. I keep reading all of the questions and comments, so keep the flow coming. You can go to Instagram and you look up Motormouth_auto. Facebook is fun too. Like the page, Motormouth, and we'll see you back here, not next week, going to Geneva, the week after. Now, I'm going to go upstairs and watch the rest of the Oscars, and I think it's going to be Bohemian Rhapsody for Best Picture. We'll see what happens. Thanks to everybody who tuned in, and we'll speak to you next time. Not next week, but next time, right here on the channel, and I'll get my lights fixed. All right? We'll see you then.